Good afternoon. Welcome to the special report on WGRZ Plus. I'm Claudine Ewing, joined by Nate Benson. We are at the Meriwether Library on Jefferson Avenue, just a few blocks away from the Top Supermarket. We all know what happened there on 5/14. We are awaiting a special news conference from the New York State Attorney General. Behind me, we see many public officials as well as families of the victims from 5/14 who are lined up here. We are expecting to hear what the New York State Attorney General has labeled as a public safety announcement. We know from the past that the New York State Attorney General has issued lawsuits, especially against Means arms sales for the magazine lock that can be easily removed to high capacity magazines and guns. That is what 5/14 was all about. It was a mass shooting that happened. 10 people were killed. The New York State Attorney General is now entering the room, about to take the podium, so we are going to listen to what she has to say. This is a public safety announcement. Listen in to New York State Attorney General.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining all of us. I especially want to thank those who are standing with me. County Executive Mark Poloncarz, Buffalo Deputy Mayor Maria White, Council members Anita Everhart, Council member Lear Halton Pope, County Legislator Lawrence Dupree, County Legislator Taisha St. Jean Tard, Private Counsel Christian Elmore Garcia, Private Counsel Andy Dibbins, members of Everytown for Gun Safety in Giffords, representatives from Congressmember Tim Kennedy's office, representatives from Assembly Member Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes and Senator April Baskin's office, Pastor Mark Blue, President of the NAACP Buffalo Branch, and Thomas Buford Jr., the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Buffalo Urban League. We are here today on behalf of Aaron Salter Jr., Celestine Cheney, Roberta Drury, Andre McNeil, Catherine Macy, Marcus D. Morrison, Hayward Patterson, Geraldine Taylor, Ruth Whitfield, and Pearl Young, and many others who lost their lives on May 14th, 2022. And also for those who were injured or simply working at Tops that day. I want to thank all of them, for all of my colleagues and friends and allies for being here. I know I speak for all of us when I say our thoughts and our prayers continue to be with the family. I made a commitment to the families almost 3.5 years ago, and today I am here to honor that commitment. I'm here today to announce settlements from lawsuits filed after the racist mass shooting at Tops Friendly Market. On May 14th, 2022, a white supremacist traveled over 3 hours to a black neighborhood and opened fire. He killed 10 innocent individuals and harmed several others. And soon after the racist attack, my office filed a lawsuit against Mean, M-E-A-N, Arms, a gun accessory manufacturer, for its role in helping the shooter possess an assault weapon in violation of New York's SAFE Act. The SAFE Act is the toughest assault weapons ban in the country. And under the SAFE Act, all assault weapons and high-capacity magazines are illegal in the state of New York. Mean Arms sold a product called the MA Lock, M-A Lock. They claim this device made AR-15 style rifles legal in New York by preventing high-capacity magazines from being attached. But Means Arms also boasted that this device could easily be removed. On the back of their packaging, they shared step-by-step instructions on how to remove it, and even posted videos online showing how to take it off. And that is exactly what the shooter did. He bought a AR-15 style rifle with the MA lock, easily removed it and added 30-round detachable magazines. He was able to fire quickly, killing 10 innocent souls, shooting 3 others, and causing trauma and pain to many more. Today, we are holding Mean Arms responsible for its role in that devastating day. As part of today's settlement, Mean Arms must permanently stop selling this device in New York. They must also make sure all product packaging easily states it cannot be sold or resold in New York. Mean Arms must also notify all businesses currently selling the product that this product is illegal to sell in New York State. In addition, Mean Arms will pay $1.75 million to the families of those killed, to bystanders, and those who were injured. Now, no amount of money can bring back those we lost or ease the pain of losing loved ones. Family members will no longer be around the table during holidays, birthdays. And so no amount of money can ease their pain. But we hope that by holding this manufacturer accountable and banning it from selling this device in New York State, we can offer the people of Buffalo some measure of comfort in knowing that those responsible for such acts of hate and violence will not go unpunished in New York. Individual plaintiffs have also reached settlements in the cases they brought, and I will let them share more about that. And I want to thank all of my partners who work with us to bring justice to this community, as I promised them that I would after that horrific incident. I also want to recognize all of the elected officials and community leaders who are here today. I want to thank them for their continued support in helping this community heal and in honoring those we lost and working to make sure this never happens again. And to let individuals know that Tops parking lot, Tops supermarket, the neighborhood of where Tops is located, Jefferson Avenue, the entire community of Buffalo, individuals need to stop the senseless violence and stop it now. I especially want to recognize the families and loved ones of the 10 families that we lost and of the lives who were forever changed, those who I pray for and those who I held today. Please know that we will continue to surround you with love and support, and we'll continue to pray for you and pray for your strength. And we thank you all for standing with this community and reminding us that we are all in this together, Jefferson strong. So may God continue to bless each and every one of them. And I thank all of them for being here today. The first speaker I'd like to bring up is the County Executive, Mark Polenkarts, to share a few words. County Executive.
Thank you, Madam General.
Thank you, Madam General, and on behalf of the people of Erie County, I want to thank you and your team for your tireless effort to reach this settlement with this manufacturer. May 14th, of course, will go down as one of the worst days in the history of Buffalo, the worst days of the city, as well as the county. And we unfortunately understand in our nation as it is today that gun violence still continues, but because of the work that your team have done, they will ensure that this device will hopefully never be used again in New York, and other communities will no longer have to go through the tragedy that our community did. To the families, I know there never will be closure, but I want to thank the Attorney General's office as well as the attorneys who worked on their behalf to ensure that there is some compensation and that that party, Mean Arms, is held responsible for the damage and the lives that they took. It is something that can never make up for the loss of the loved one, but it is a message that's sent to other manufacturers out there that if this should happen, the Attorney General, and there will be private rights of action filed, and you can be held responsible for it as a business. So to all, I want to thank, once again, the Attorney General, our team, for their dogged pursuit of this lawsuit. I know in our country today we are divided in many ways, but there was one thing that when this incident occurred, when this horrible shooting occurred, our community came together, truthfully, like it never had. And it showed the resilience of our community, the support that we offered for the families, the love that we offered to them. And I just want to say on behalf of the people of Erie County, I thank you and your team once again for all that they've done. And to the families, we continue to stand with you, understanding the pain that you've gone through is something we hope we never go through. But you can always count on us to be there for you. And no matter what happens, we will always be there together, as you noted, Jefferson strong, Buffalo strong, to get through one of the worst days of our city's history, but also to stand here today knowing that we are still united to support the families and to ensure that hopefully an event like this never happens again, not just in our community, but in communities across the United States. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, County Executive. Next, I'd like to introduce Andy Debbins from Connors LLP. Andy and his team represented some of the victims' families in this matter, and he will speak to you about all of the litigation that they have initiated. Mr. Debbins.
Good afternoon. My name is Andy Debbins, and along with Terry Connors and Ben Crump, I'm one of the attorneys fighting for justice for our community for the tragic, racist attack in this neighborhood on May 14th, 2022. In that fight, I have the honor and the privilege of representing many of those who were killed that day. Lieutenant Aaron Salter, Ruth Whitfield, Pearl Young, Geraldine Talley, Roberta Drury, and Margus Morrison, as well as many of those who continue to live with the scars from that day. Zaire Goodman, Sonetta Everhart, Brooklyn Ho, Joanne Daniels, Robia Gary, Keisha Douglas, Terza Patterson, and Christopher Braden. And I'm grateful to be joined here today by many of those individuals and their families. I'll begin by thanking these folks, the victims, for their perseverance and their trust as we have walked this difficult path. I also thank the many attorneys that I've worked with through all the motions, appeals, and conferences that it's taken to get here. It occurred to me the last time so many of us were together in one place, it was a tiny hot little room in Endicott in the Southern Tier, when we took the deposition of the firearms dealer at Vintage Arms who sold the Buffalo shooter an AR-15 rifle with the MA lock installed. Because of hard work like that, and because of the victims and their lawyers' grit, we have reached a settlement with Vintage Firearms, that gun dealer, and the shooter's parents, in addition to Mean Arms. I also want to thank the Attorney General and all the lawyers in her office who have worked on this. Your partnership was instrumental in obtaining this outcome, and through our hard work, we have achieved what I believe any lawyer would tell you is a great result for this part of the litigation. Of course, there is no amount of money that can compensate the victims of May 14th for the unspeakable horrors of that day. And there is no amount of money that can make right what happened to our community. But that is not the story today. Today, we celebrate fighting back against hate and all who enable it. We celebrate the victims of hate having the courage to take a stand, and we celebrate their victory against hatred. And I, for one, am proud to say our fight against hate and what it has done to our community is not over. Far from it. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce Christian Elmore Garcia from John V. Elmore PC. Christian also represented victims' families and injured individuals. Christian?
Thank you, AG James, and good afternoon to everyone in our community. If you are watching or you are listening, then you are also a part of this community. I want to share with you some words you may have heard more than once throughout this month of February, which is, stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days and hope when unborn had died. But with the steady beat of our weary feet, have we not come to a place for which our fathers sighed? Please consider this achievement to be a moment where we can sigh a little bit of relief for having at least partially finished the job of getting justice for our community members who suffered after May 14th. We thank the partnership of our New York State Attorney General, who did act as a hammer to bring all of the necessary parties to the table to obtain justice. We thank support and the trust of our clients, the loving families of Catherine Massey, the loving families of Andre McNeil and Hayward Patterson, and Miss Leticia Rogers, who trust us to continue this fight on their behalf. It would not have been possible to truly obtain unprecedented legal decisions that are in their favor and that will hopefully be used in similar cases across the country to hold corporations accountable when they create and market a product in such a way that happened here. No one wants to become an expert on mass shooting litigation. Ideally, we wouldn't live in a country where there are these types of legal precedents and monumental settlement discussions taking place. But that is not the reality of the state of our country, and it is an honor to have been of service to these individuals. It wouldn't have been possible without our litigation partners from the Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, the Bellick Law Firm, as well as the Social Media Victims Law Center, who've taken hours of writing and drafting and grilling and coaching and training time to be able to get the legal decisions that allow the settlement to take place. And of course, it wouldn't be possible without the partnership of my law partner and main, everybody knows John. What could I say about having an opportunity to be in business with my dad and to be Western New York's African American family-owned plaintiff law firm. It's a seat to which we hold together with the goal of serving the community. And as we go forward to the New York State Court of Appeals in the coming months against the social media corporations, we hope we will have similar moments of triumph and justice to bring forward to you in the future. Thank you.
When I first met her, she was a mom, and she was there for her son. And now she's a council member Zenita Everhart. As many of you know, her son Zaire was an employee at Tops and was injured the day of the shooting. She just informed me that Zaire is at Tops right now, working. We keep Zaire in our thoughts and in our prayers, and now we'd like to hear from Council Member Everhart.
Thank you, AG James. Today is a victory, but it's a teachable moment, right? It is a moment for people in the community who are looking to do harm to others, that we're coming for you, right? And I want to thank AG James for staying at the table with us on this. I want to thank Terry Connors and Andy and the whole team at Connors LLP. To John Elmore and Kristen Elmore, thank you very much for all of your work. But I especially want to thank Zaire and the victims' families, because they've stayed strong through this. And what I'm going to say here today is not so much about this so-called victory, it is about what's going to happen on Friday, right? This is a victory today. But 514, for the families, for the victims, it still continues. This Friday, the trial court cases, hearings, it continues in this case. This person is still being prosecuted in federal court. The families will be in court. We go to court. Every time there is a hearing, there's a court case. And so for me today, I can't necessarily celebrate this as a victory because Friday is coming. And next Thursday is coming, and next Friday. And so for everyone listening and watching, I just want to say, remember that the families are still going through this. Every time you encounter them in public, yes, Zaire is right down the street at Tops right now. He loves hugs, so go hug him. He doesn't, but just do it anyways. But we appreciate that love because we go to court, we deal with this every single day. And yes, we are grateful for our attorneys, but on a personal level, we are still dealing with 514 as if it had happened yesterday. And so, you know, I know we're all busy, but if you have time, court is open to the public. Come down there, see the families, greet them, pat them on the back, hug them. They are dealing with this every single day, and court is Friday at 9:30, federal court. I'll be there. So come and show some love to the families. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Another council member who stayed on me, and that is someone who I've known and has become a friend, Councilmember Leah Halton Pope. Please come forward to say a few words.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Attorney General Leticia James. Today is bittersweet. Sweet because we have some justice that's been performed. It's been about 3 years, 8 months, and 28 days since the May 14th shooting. And our community is still healing. That is a long legacy of pain for an attack that lasted just over 2 minutes. Jefferson Avenue is more than just a corridor. It's home, it's culture, it's history. And on that dark day, it was violated. Law enforcement responded in 2 minutes. And one of our very own, Aaron Salter, he responded even sooner. And yet still, the damage was catastrophic, with 60 shots fired, 3 people injured, and 10 innocent lives taken. Why? Because the shooter was able to turn his weapon into an illegal assault weapon with 30-round magazines, something that has been banned in New York for decades. This didn't happen by accident. Mean Arms sold a so-called magazine lock that could easily be removed, and they provided instructions on how to do it. And an 18-year-old with racism in his heart, no special training, was able to make his weapon more lethal in minutes. So while Mean Arms profited, our community paid the price. This settlement is not just about dollars. It's about accountability. It's about stopping the sale of a product that helped make mass shooting deadlier. And it's about preventing this kind of violence from ever happening again. I commend our Attorney General for always having our back, for always standing up for us, for being New York's attorney, and for standing with the families, the survivors, and the entire city of Buffalo, and for making clear that companies cannot undermine our gun laws and escape responsibility. May 14th was meant to terrorize us. Instead, it strengthened our resolve. And we continue to fight for justice, for safety, and for Jefferson Avenue, because we're Jefferson strong, and we will never stop.
And now I'd like to introduce Eric Tershwell from Everytown to share a few words. Eric?
Thank you very much, Attorney General James. As you heard, my name's Eric Tershwell. I'm the Executive Director of Everytown Law, and along with the Bonner and Ryder law firms, we represent Wayne Jones, whose mother, Celestine Cheney, was one of the victims murdered in the shooting. We also represent a group of 25 TOPS workers and shoppers. I want to start by thanking Attorney General James and her team, as well as all the other lawyers here and those who've worked on this case. It's that partnership that led to the important and really landmark settlement that we're announcing today. I want to just add a few quick points to what's already been said. And the first is to explain with a little more detail, the factual connection between the gun lock that Mean Arms sold and the devastating toll at the Tops Market. In the middle of his racist rampage, the shooter ran out of ammunition from his first 30-round magazine. He had just started shooting my client's mother, Miss Cheney, a 65-year-old grandmother at the time. But because he had been able to easily remove Mean Arms' lock from his weapon and replace it with another part, he could quickly reload another 30-round magazine without anybody having a chance to try to stop him. And so he was able to continue his killing spree. What our lawsuits allege, and this is the claim that a New York appeals court gave us the green light to move forward on until we reach this settlement. What our lawsuits alleged is that had Mean's lock actually been permanent, the shooter would not have been able to use detachable, high-capacity magazines, and the tragic results here would have been very different. As I mentioned, we represent 25 community members who went to work or to shop at Tops on May 14th. They were not shot, this group of 25, but they witnessed the horror of their friends, co-workers, and fellow community members being murdered in front of them. Some hid next to cash registers and crawled behind the customer service desk. Others huddled in back rooms and barricaded the door. They all heard the unmistakable sound of repeated rounds being fired from a destructive AR-15 weapon of war. Some of our clients are here today. Dana Moore, Kim Bowles, Patrick Patterson, Rose Wasaki, Quinae Thompson, and Kurt Baker. I may have missed someone, but I think those are the ones who are here today. Now, there's no question that these individuals have experienced lasting trauma, and their lives have been deeply impacted. But the law has not always recognized this kind of trauma if it is not accompanied by a traditional physical injury like a gunshot. And so our lawsuit on behalf of these 25 individuals and this settlement today together represent an important step forward in pushing the law in this direction. I want to finish with this. Today's announcement should send a strong message to the gun industry. Gun safety laws, like New York's assault weapons ban, are not inconveniences to be circumvented in pursuit of profit. And as to the social media companies and the body armor company that we've sued, this case is far from over, and we will continue to fight for accountability from all who played a role in paving the way to the May 14th tragedy here in Buffalo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric, and I want to thank Everytown and Giffords for working to keep all of us safe from gun violence. And now I'd like to introduce Leah Rome from Giffords. Ms. Rome?
Thank you, Attorney General. My name is Lee Rome, and I am an attorney with Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. We've partnered with John Elmore and Kristen Elmore Garcia, as well as the Social Media Victims Law Center and Bellic Law, and together we represent the estates of Andre McNeil, Catherine Massey, and Hayward Patterson, and Leticia Rogers, who survived the mass shooting. Our clients' absences leave behind losses that cannot be overstated, and I'd like to share a bit about them today. Cat Massey was a beloved community activist. She was known for her sincerity and thoughtfulness. She was an outspoken voice for justice, freedom, and equality. Hayward Patterson was a deacon at State Tabernacle Church of God. He was described as truly a man of God who devoted his time to helping others. Andre McNeil was a dedicated father and grandfather who went to Tops on May 14th to buy a cake for his then 3-year-old son's birthday. He wrote poems for his loved ones, and he encouraged them to follow their dreams. Nothing will ever bring back those who were murdered at Tops. The survivors, families, and the broader community will forever be affected. This is something our organization knows too well. Giffords was founded by former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, who herself survived a mass shooting 15 years ago. Gabby, like our clients, has made a choice to fight to end gun violence, to fight for a better future. Thanks to the bravery of our clients, we can pursue justice and hold the gun industry accountable here in Buffalo. Hopefully, these efforts will stop future acts of violence before they happen, so that no more families or communities will have to endure what our clients have been through the last 4 years. It's a privilege for me to come to Buffalo to seek justice for the victims' families and survivors of May 14th, and to collaborate with the Attorney General's office and other plaintiff groups here today. None of us will ever forget this horrific act of violence or the courage that the survivors and families have shown. Your voices truly made a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. And now I'd like to bring up Garnell Whitfield to share a few words. Garnell is a former fire chief for the city of Buffalo and the son of Ruth Whitfield. Ruth was a mother, a grandmother, and a member of her church's choir. Mr. Whitfield?
Good afternoon. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge and thank my Lord and Savior for giving my siblings and I a mother in the person of Mrs. Ruth E. Whitfield, and for blessing all of us with the loved ones of the families that were so callously murdered almost 4 years ago. We continue to love them and live with the pain of their loss every day. But in the midst of this grief, I also have to thank my Lord and Savior for his promise to never leave or forsake us. We cry for our loved ones, those lost through death, and those that are among us, but also are lost because they continue to suffer under the weight of a system that keeps them in the margins. We cry for strength, we cry for fortitude to be able to continue this fight. We cry for our families, we cry for our communities, and we cry for a better day. But in the midst of our crying, we also cry out for justice. And as evidence of the Lord having heard our cry, he has given us an advocate in the person of New York State's Attorney General, the Honorable Leticia James. Thank you. She has been here from the beginning. She's been present from the day this happened, and not long after this, as was stated, she had the audacity to think it not robbery in the midst of all that she does, and she does a lot. She does a lot. In the midst of all that she does, to use the authority and the resources of her office to demand accountability from mean arms, and she, along with our attorneys, have worked tirelessly to expose their complicity through the misrepresentation of their MA lock as being compliant with the laws of New York State, and by also providing owners, as was stated, of the lock, a blueprint on how to disable it. Additionally, it is also important to note that our attorneys have pursued the parents of the shooter to hold them accountable for their degree of responsibility, and that is also a part of this settlement as well. This has not been an easy fight, and no amount of money will ever make up for the loss of our loved ones. But through this courageous action, and in this instance, justice has been served and prevailed, and this settlement will provide additional fuel for the fight that is ahead. For our attorneys, as they pursue accountability for the others that contributed to the radicalization of the shooter, and for the family members that have turned their pain into purpose and have sacrificed much to join this fight. We are far from done. For as long as there are others continuing to fan the flames of hate and bigotry, as long as gun violence continues to be an epidemic in our communities, as long as our communities and our people continue to be underserved, we will continue to honor the memory of our loved ones by raising our voices and standing up for justice. We thank Attorney General James, our legal teams, this community, and this world for their love and their support. And together, we are committed to continuing the fight for justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Garnell. And Ms. Whitfield was beloved by so many, and we will continue to remember her. Last but not least, I'd like to bring up Pamela Pritchard to share a few words. Pamela is the daughter of Pearl Young, who was a pillar of this community. She taught at Sunday school, and she ran a food pantry to feed the hungry. And now we would like to hear from her daughter, Ms. Pritchard.
Thank you, Attorney General, for all the work that you've done for our families. Thank you to all of the attorneys. I'd like to just take a moment and say that there are experiences that my family had that I never want anyone else to have again. That's why I appreciate what you've done. I never want to have a family member be called by the funeral director and said, try to find the best hat that you can bring because of the damage that was done. I never want to have to write a poem called The Blessing of an Open Casket. My mom couldn't have an open casket because of the damage that was done. And so for me, anything that can be done so that no other family has to experience that, no other family has to get a call that they would never expect, that's more than enough for me. I am grateful for everything that has been done, but I will be even more grateful to know that no family gets that call again, that changes are made in this world, in this nation, because we don't need this. I think we can all agree that no one should be able to come into a store and in over 2 minutes inflict so much damage to a community, to a family, to children. To this day, my children cry. They have nightmares. And the reality is, they'll probably have that for a long time. But my prayer is that with what has happened with our Attorney General, maybe someone else's family will never have that occur. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. I also want to thank the members of my team who worked tirelessly on this matter. Assistant Attorney General Rachel Mamin Kish, Special Counsel Molly Thomas Jensen, Special Counsel James Thompson, Legal Assistant Labiba Hassan, Administrative Assistant Ryan Brownell, former Assistant Attorney General Sarah Kam, Chief Deputy Attorney General Megan Fox, and the First Deputy Attorney General Jen Levy. I want to thank them all for their hard work on this important issue. And now, Laima will take us to on-topic questions only.
Can we talk about the settlement with the gun store as well as the parents? What are the terms of that?
So as I think you might understand, that settlement's confidential. They often are. We exhausted all of the civil discovery process that's available to us under our laws, and reached a settlement that we feel is on the best terms, and we recommended that to our clients. It remains subject to approval by the Supreme Court, as is the case in any death case, but the exact terms are subject to a confidentiality agreement.
But will the parents have to pay, and will the gun store remain open?
There is a monetary aspect of the settlement with the parents.
But we can't say how much.
Correct.
And what about the gun store?
There's that, I believe, if that settlement is approved, there will be a further press release regarding that.
Does this wrap up all the lawsuits with regard to mean arms, the parents, and the store?
If the settlement is approved, it will wrap up all the lawsuits with those defendants.
Yeah.
Madam Attorney General.
Let me just respond. New York State, the Office of the Attorney General does not have a claim against vintage stores, and this is a global settlement with respect to mean. Yes, sir.
Besides tragic accidents, tragic incidents at 514.
Yes.
There's been a couple other incidents of the same cops.
Yes.
One last June, one this past Saturday. What can you say about that violence that hasn't left that area?
I would say that the federal government needs to pass universal gun legislation. It's really critically important that we pass reforms going forward. And my message to everyone here in Buffalo and in the surrounding counties is that we need to stop the gun violence. We need to stop the violence. We need to love ourselves, and we need to recognize that we're harming one another. But the federal government should step up and address the fact that there are too many guns flowing from states with lax gun laws that end up in the hands of individuals. And hopefully one day we'll have a Congress that will respond to the cries from not only Democrats, Republicans, or independents, but from Americans in general.
How discerning is it that at that particular house, violence goes?
It's very discerning because that's a sacred space.
Can you talk a little bit about the process of settling some of these cases rather than letting them linger out in the court?
You know, it's mediation, it's negotiation, and oftentimes you have to weigh whether or not you should go to trial or whether or not you should settle. And in this particular case, we settled for the tune of $1.75 million that will go to those who've lost their lives, the family of those who've lost their lives, those who are injured, and those who've been traumatized as a result of this vicious and racist act.
Attorney General,
We'll take two more. Go ahead.
can you explain the global settlement aspect of this for people? I know that there were separate cases.
Yeah.
And, is this one settlement? Is this three separate? Can you explain that?
So it's one settlement, but it's the Office of the Attorney General and the private plaintiffs. They're covered.
And has this also encouraged you to look at other manufacturers besides?
So I'll turn to private, they have pending cases against other gun manufacturers.
Sure. What I'll say is there is litigation across the country against gun manufacturers, against suppliers of gun accessories and other parts. I think that this settlement and this lawsuit is an important marker in a growing number of civil lawsuits to hold the gun industry accountable when they act in ways that contribute to gun violence.
And lastly, let me close by saying the following. As most of you know, the governor of the state of New York basically assigned our office with the responsibility to investigate social media platforms. And one of the reforms that we put forward in our report is the need to reform Section 230. Section 230, which basically protects online platforms. And these online platforms, unfortunately, are promoting violence and extremism. And if we're going to address this in this country, I would urge, again, the United States Congress, both sides of the aisle, to reform Section 230 so that we can hold some of these platforms accountable. But I am confident that my colleagues, private plaintiffs, will seek justice for these families, and I stand with them each and every day. I thank all of you for being here. Someone's phone?
New York State Attorney General Leticia James announcing. And you have just been listening to a press conference with New York State Attorney General Leticia James announcing a settlement with Means LLC. as well as we heard about settlements with the gun store that sold the top shooter that weapon, and what stood out to me, Nate, a settlement with the parents of the shooter. That is something that was not negotiated by the New York State Attorney General. That is something that we heard from John Elmore's firm, his daughter Kristen Elmore Garcia, as well as the attorney from the Connors firm, talking about a settlement with the parents. But really, this was big news that we're getting today.
Monumental news, really. And you know, one thing that stuck out to me was Councilmember Everhart. You know, her son was at the store that day, impacted by this shooting. You know, and she says certainly while this helps, they're living with this every day still, and there are still the pending litigation for the shooter that they have a court case this Friday. So, you know, it's not over for them, and that's something that she really emphasized, that the public should know that this is not over for the families.
It is not. Something else that stood out to me today, Nate, when we were hearing all of the names. We have heard the names over and over again of the 10 people who were killed, the 3 people who were injured, but other names were mentioned too, family members because they were affected, people who were in that store.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people who were in that store, people hiding in coolers, people running out. They too were affected. And so this settlement is also for them. The amount, we heard $1.75 million from Means Arms. Doesn't seem like a whole lot of money when you're talking about 10 families, 10 people killed, their families, plus the amount of people who were also injured. But it is something, and it definitely sends a statement, and that is something we heard from the New York State Attorney General. This is sending a statement, and so the Attorney General just walked by us. She is now leaving the library, heading back. So a big day for her to come into town and to make this big announcement.
And another aspect of this settlement is Mean Arms can no longer sell that MA lock here in New York State. There's going to be a warning label on the packaging for any new product, and they have to notify any firearms stores here in New York State that if you've got it on the shelf, it's got to get off. So again, it's certainly after the fact, but that is a massive part of this news story as well, that they can't sell that in New York, and it cannot be resold in New York either.
And that was a big deal when this lawsuit was first filed. I remember the Attorney General, because I printed this out, she wanted to stop Mean Arms from doing business in New York and require the company to pay restitution. Yeah. That happened. Yeah. Damages, civil penalties for its illegal practices that violated state laws and caused irreparable harm. We know the harm that was caused on May 14th. This room represents it. Yeah. Where we're standing, we're only a few blocks away from where this actually took place. So she followed through, and that's why she came here today. But to hear from lawmakers as well, to hear from the families, we heard from Zanetta, we heard from Garnell Whitfield, his mother, the oldest person at that store at that time, who was killed, as well as others as well. And I know we need to hear from the families while they're in the room as well.
Yeah, and Pamela Pritchard's, account of, having to bury her mother, couldn't even have an open casket, because of the damage done on that day. And, that, again, almost 4 years later, I was on scene that day too, and it almost brought tears to my eyes, because it's just, again, the impact of this still lingers so much with the families.
Yeah, and it hit home for so many people, because these were 10 individuals, 10 families, 10 stories that touch so many lives within this community. And so one of the other things we heard today, the violence has not stopped on Jefferson Avenue, and the Attorney General is calling for a stop to it, as well as all of the other lawmakers, and this community is calling for an end to gun violence. So we're going to wrap up our coverage right now on WGRZ+. We thank you so much for joining us for this special report, a settlement in relation to 514, the mass casualty that happened here in the city of Buffalo. I think we have a little bit more time. You want to talk about these families as well?
Well, and again, the Attorney General kind of issuing a warning to social media companies, calling for 230 to be altered as well. That's a federal code that would make social media companies liable. There's still pending civil suits regarding social media companies, but the Attorney General issuing a warning to social media companies that they might be next in terms of who she's going to be going after for restitution in this case.
And I think we can't ignore the fact that this fight is not over. We heard that from Zanetta Everhart. She talked about the court cases coming up on Friday, encouraging people come to federal court, be with the families, see the families, talk to the families, because the shooter still has that federal court case to deal with. Again, we want to thank you so much for joining us on Channel 2, WGRZ Plus, for this special report, a settlement in relation to the mass casualty shooting at Tops on 5/14. Thanks for joining us.